Tonight on NewsWatch, don't give up hope. Japan's prime minister makes a rare television appearance as his country's nuclear crisis gets worse.
Plus, too hot to handle. Will Japan's nuclear failure spell the end of atomic power around the world?
And fighting or fleeing? Does the latest budget agreement mean some lawmakers are breaking their promises to the voters? All this and more tonight on NewsWatch. The leader of Japan is pleading with his people not to give up hope. Good evening, I'm Lee Webb.
And I'm Wendy Griffith. But hope may be hard to find for some people in the radiation zone of a troubled nuclear plant. Emergency workers were forced to evacuate the plant after radiation levels soared today. They were able to return a few hours later, but the pullback cost precious time as just 50 workers tried to prevent a nuclear meltdown. Ephraim Graham has more in tonight's top story.
Crews are preparing to continue the efforts to cool overheating reactors at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant. That after remaining emergency workers were briefly sent away from the nuclear complex due to a surge in the amount of radiation. In a rare public speech, Japan's emperor addressed the nation about the crisis.
I'm deeply concerned about the nuclear situation because it's unpredictable. With the help of those involved, I hope things will not get worse.
Meanwhile, radiation levels continue to fluctuate. Authorities are widening the evacuation zone, and 140,000 people who live near the facilities are moving to the city of Koriyama. They arrive by the busload, tired and frustrated.
I really hope that we can go back to our house as soon as possible and to live an ordinary life.
In the same city, fear of radiation exposure has some people lining up to be tested at a gymnasium. This woman says, "I was so nervous until I got the result. It was fine, and now I feel relieved. If there had not been a nuclear accident, I would not need to get tested or have had such a frightening experience. I'm angry." In Tokyo, 150 miles away, people are wearing radiation badges and buying everything in sight. Radiation fears are also hampering relief efforts to the worst affected areas. Ken Joseph is with the Japan emergency team in Sendai.
Just now, the different countries have started to evacuate their people because of the threat of radiation. So people are apparently afraid to come in to help. There's a great bit of discouragement and fear here that everything's kind of happening at the same time.
Despite the dangers, Operation Blessing is on the scene in Japan bringing food and water. The team is in the northern town of Shiogama, where they're distributing food and water and helping the displaced tsunami victims. Ephraim Graham, CBN News.
And Operation Blessing is on the ground in Japan. David Darg is very close to the earthquake's epicenter in the Sendai area. Operation Blessing is distributing food and water to some of the 6,000 people left homeless by the disaster. He filed this video blog report from one of the hardest hit areas.
The volunteers behind me are cooking meals to serve some of the thousands of displaced families in this city alone. There are 6,000 people estimated to have lost their homes in this city, and they still haven't accounted for all the missing. They don't even know how many people are missing here. The city water supply has been cut off, and the people really, really need water. So Operation Blessing brought water supplies from Tokyo. We brought food. We've delivered it here. And we've met with the leadership of the city. We've talked about how Operation Blessing can continue to support efforts here and really bolster this type of scenario. There's lots of this going on in the region, feeding centers that have been set up to serve the victims of the disaster. And Operation Blessing can provide a supply chain of food, supplies, and water to this type of feeding center. This building is full of families that have come to take refuge. These are people that have been displaced from their homes, and you can see if you look in here, families have just taken over classrooms. We're going to start serving this place as much as we can, because there are not just this school, there are many centers throughout this city that really need food, that really need water, and really need our help.
And you can keep up with Operation Blessing's relief efforts through a link to our website at cbnnews.com.
Up until the events in Japan, nuclear power was starting to gain favor in some parts of the world as countries tried to cut their dependence on oil. But as Dale Hurd tells us, that is now likely to change.
The disaster in Japan could very likely kill what was supposed to be a resurgence of the nuclear power industry in America. Back in 2008, candidate Barack Obama said nuclear power would be an important part of America's strategy for energy independence. The industry had rebounded from the disastrous 1970s and 80s, which saw astronomical startup cost overruns and accidents at 3 Mile Island and Chernobyl. Before the Japanese earthquake, there were dozens of new nuclear plants on the drawing board for the United States. There was even talk of following the example of France, which gets most of its power from nuclear.
France decided to go nuclear in 1973 during the first Middle East oil crisis, when France saw its vulnerability on energy and charted a course toward energy security.
Jacques Repoussard is Director General of France's Nuclear Safety Institute.
France has no oil and virtually no gas reserves. And we had to face the issue of where, on a long time, would we procure our energy. And the government then decided to go big on nuclear, and not only to have reactors, but also to create a real nuclear industry. So the purpose was national independence.
France has 59 operating reactors and gets 80% of its electricity from nuclear. The United States has almost twice as many reactors, but is also 5 times larger than France, so the U.S. only gets about 20% of its electricity from nuclear power. France says the crisis in Japan will not scare it away from atomic energy, but France is also not earthquake-prone like Japan. Germany has announced it will take 7 of its oldest reactors offline and will evaluate whether to shut them down. Backers of nuclear power in America call it abundant, affordable energy that doesn't emit CO2. Angie Howard of the Nuclear Energy Institute.
Nuclear power generates a large amount of baseload electricity without emitting any greenhouse gases.
But even before the Japanese earthquake, major environmental groups in Washington did not like nuclear power, mostly because of how to dispose of the waste. Still, nuclear power is cleaner than coal, and in this country has demonstrated an excellent safety record. It also relies on fuel found right here in North America. But it's going to be hard, if not impossible, for the revival of the nuclear industry to continue after the nuclear nightmare in Japan. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
In news tonight from Washington, Congressman Mike Pence of Indiana tells CBN News that it's time to pick a fight over the budget. Congress is set to pass another quick fix to keep the government running, but Pence and dozens of other congressional Republicans want a permanent budget with deep cuts. CBN's chief political correspondent David Brody is following this story for us tonight from Capitol Hill. David?
Well, Lee, there have been 6 stopgap measures here passed to fund the government. Mike Pence says enough is enough. No more of the stopgap measures. Let me give you an example. In the last month alone, there have been 3 of them. The first one expires this Friday. That's a 2-week measure to fund the government. That's March 18th. The next one goes 3 weeks, or will go 3 weeks once they pass it. That'll go through April 8th. And then the big battle, the one that will fund the government through September. Now, Republicans like Mike Pence and a lot of other House conservatives and Senate conservatives, for that matter, say they're willing to go $60 billion in cuts, which is a decent-sized dent, not a big one. But Democrats, on the other hand, say, no, we're not going to do $60 billion. We're just going to do maybe $4 or $5 billion. So there's this huge difference in between. Plus, House Republicans want Planned Parenthood funding cut totally. That's where the battle is going to begin. And here's Mike Pence.
Democrats, liberals in the Senate, for their part, don't want anything to do with even cutting the small amount of $61 billion compared to that massive debt. And they certainly don't want to put the sanctity of life back at the center of the federal budget like I believe a majority of Americans would choose to do. It's time to pick a fight. When you listen to Senator Harry Reid go to the floor and say that $61 billion in budget cuts is reckless and irresponsible and mean-spirited, and then he even defended federal funding for the Cowboy Poetry Institute. This just tells me that they just don't get it. They don't understand the fiscal crisis facing our nation. There is a tremendous weight of conformity in Washington, D.C. And, the book I read this morning said, be not conform. We need to dig in. We need to reject the cultural conformity of spending in Washington, D.C. And that's going to take a confrontation. We're willing to make that stand. Nobody wants to shut down the government, but if we don't take decisive action, we're going to shut down the future for our children and grandchildren.
So where do we stand? Well, we're about $55 billion apart. Republicans want about $60 billion in cuts. Democrats want about $4 billion or so in cuts. If both sides do not compromise, give it all, which is expected up here, then we are looking at a government shutdown. Lee?
David Brody from Capitol Hill tonight. David, thank you.
Thanks.
The Family Research Council is also targeting Planned Parenthood in a webcast on human trafficking. It promoted undercover video from liveaction.org. The clips show Planned Parenthood employees conspiring with traffickers to provide health care and abortions to underage trafficking victims.
They've been involved in covering up and facilitating sex trafficking. And that's something that most Americans aren't aware that's actually happening in communities across this country.
Our undercover investigations at Live Action over the past 4 years have shown that Planned Parenthood repeatedly not only covers up the abuse of girls as young as 13, but is willing and ready to work with abusers, commercial exploiters, traffickers of children.
Planned Parenthood supporters say Live Action's videos were heavily edited.
Coming up, paying blood money. Did the federal government follow Sharia law to win the freedom of a man accused of murder?
Attention investors, now is the time to protect your retirement accounts and investments. Excessive government spending is devaluing the US dollar and high rates of inflation are coming. Gold has tripled since 2001 and some experts predict the prices will climb another 100%. Buy gold now, direct and wholesale with United Gold Group. The demand for gold around the world is higher than ever. Foreign countries like China and India are buying up gold at record rates. Why? What do they know that you don't?
Call now and get your Gold Investors Kit absolutely free. Call in the next 5 minutes and receive The Secret to Owning Gold in Your Retirement Account, also absolutely free. Just call 1-800-758-5070. That's 1-800-758-5070.
This could be the most important call you make this year. United Gold Group, investing in America's future.
Do you take fish oil? There's an omega-3 supplement that's better than regular fish oil.
Staying healthy, it's not easy. I exercise regularly and eat lots of fruits and vegetables. I used to take a fish oil supplement too, but then I discovered something better than regular fish oil. Arctic Wonder Omega-3 Krill Oil. It's from the makers of One A Day, so I know I can trust it. The omega-3s in Arctic Wonder both support heart health and are scientifically proven to be better absorbed than regular fish oil. You'd have to take 6 of these fish oil soft gels to get the strength of just 2 Arctic Wonder soft gels.
The Arctic Wonder does not have an aftertaste.
They go down real easy. Arctic Wonder isn't just good for your heart. It also supports healthy brain function and a healthy immune system.
This is one of the products that I plan to take for the rest of my life.
Arctic Wonder is from One A Day and not available in stores. For a special trial offer, call or go online now. Call 1-800-409-7339. That's 1-800-409-7339. Or go online to tryarcticwonder.com now.
A CIA contractor who shot and killed 2 men in Pakistan is free after the U.S. reportedly used a principle of Sharia law to appease the victim's family. The family told the court that they pardoned Raymond Allen Davis. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton denies that, but reports say the government paid more than $2.3 million in what is called blood money under Sharia law. Davis said he acted in self-defense, but the killing sparked anti-American sentiments in a country that is considered a key ally. At the time of his arrest, the federal government called Davis an embassy employee, but it later admitted he is a CIA operative. The U.S. Embassy also thanked the victims' families for their generosity.
In Libya, Muammar Gaddafi's government has reclaimed nearly all of the territory it lost. Rebels still hold on to Benghazi. Today, Gaddafi's warplanes launched their first attack on the city by bombing a military airport. The United Nations is debating whether to enforce a no-fly zone over the area to protect the rebels from Gaddafi's air force. But the dictator's son says it's too late. He says that everything will be finished in the next 48 hours. The King of Bahrain has declared a 3-month state of emergency. He's ordering the military to battle unrest in that strategic nation. Witnesses say at least 4 people were killed when police stormed a protesters' encampment in the capital. Protesters are demanding political reforms and equal rights for the majority Shiites. Thousands demonstrated in the capital outside the Saudi embassy. They're protesting 1,000 Saudi-led troops brought in to support Bahrain's government. Bahrain is of strategic importance to the U.S. It hosts the U.S. Navy's 5th Fleet.
Secretary of State Clinton is in Egypt tonight, getting a first-hand look at the government transition taking place there. She toured Tahrir Square today. That was the epicenter, of course, of the popular uprising that led to the toppling of President Hosni Mubarak and his government. Clinton walked through the square, shaking hands and waving to Egyptian citizens.
Very exciting and very moving, and to see where this revolution happened and all that it has meant to the world is extraordinary for me.
She is there to encourage the people and their transitional leaders to hold true to the ideals of democratic reform. The American Center for Law and Justice is trying to keep an Islamic mosque from being built near Ground Zero in New York. ACLJ attorneys appeared before the New York State Supreme Court Tuesday, arguing the site is hallowed ground and not the place to build a mosque. The ACLJ says it would be deeply offensive to many Americans, especially family and friends of 9/11 victims.
Up next, returning the love, ignoring their own needs, a missionary family finds themselves on the receiving end of an extreme blessing.
CBNNews.com. News you want, when you want, 24/7. Stay current with up-to-the-minute stories.
David Brody, CBN News, Capitol Hill.
I don't have to wait for my news anymore. CBNNews.com, at your fingertips all day long.
I only watch the stories I want to see.
I find the story, I click on it, and boom, I'm there.
I'm Chris Mitchell, reporting from Jerusalem.
The source for your news, CBNNews.com.
The doctor said to me, "Peggy, you don't understand. Pancreatic cancer is inoperable and incurable." And he says, "Well, Peggy, you've got 2 months to live." It was like he was telling me, go to the store. There was no compassion. Yeah, it was heartbreaking. My life was an hourglass. I was home, laying on the couch, just dying. My sister Pam called the Cancer Treatment Centers of America. When I got there, I knew that I was going to be cared for. I met with the doctor after the tests were done and said, "How long do I have?" And he looked at me and he said, "Peggy, we did a lot of tests on you, and I never saw one thing stamped on the bottom of your foot that said you were going to die in 2 months. You have no expiration date." And I thought, wow.
Cancer Treatment Centers of America is unlike any other cancer hospital, full of hope, committed to your fight. We use every weapon: surgery, chemotherapy, radiation, nutrition, spiritual support, and mind-body medicine. We surround you with a real team, working together, all under one roof.
Each time I went back to the Cancer Treatment Centers of America, I responded better. My tumors were shrinking. Came back in September again, and they still couldn't see anything. I said, "You're kidding me." We'll see how it goes. We'll keep testing, but we can't see the tumors anymore.
Please call the number on your screen to speak with an oncology information specialist and receive a life-changing information kit and DVD packed with valuable information. Call now and learn about treatment options you may not even know exist.
It's really unbelievable how one doctor can tell me I have 2 months to live. And then I go to the Cancer Treatment Centers of America and they saved my life. Hope is a mainstay. Hope is everything.
Don't give up. Your fight is our fight. Call Cancer Treatment Centers of America today.
Former boxing champion Muhammad Ali wants Iran to release the 2 American hikers it has held since 2009. Their families say Josh Fatal and Sean Bauer crossed the Iranian border by mistake. The government says they're spies. In a letter, Ali asked Iran Supreme Commander Ayatollah Ali Khamenei to free the men and to, quote, please show the world the compassion I know you have in your heart. The 69-year-old former boxer is the founder of a Center for World Peace in Louisville, Kentucky. Ali traveled to Iran in the early 1990s when he tried to secure the freedom of a prisoner during the Iraq-Iran war.
The government of Malaysia will release 35,000 Malay language Bibles held up by customs officials there. Authorities blocked distribution of the scriptures because they use the word Allah for God. Last year, a court ruling gave Christians the right to use the word Allah in their printed materials, but the government is challenging that ruling because they say it will be confusing for Muslims. The Bibles will be stamped for Christians only to prevent anyone from trying to convert Muslims. About a year ago, Joe and Cindy Hurston returned from a missionary trip only to find their home flooded because of a broken pipe. They were unable to make repairs, so they lived in a small camper for 6 months.
Wow. Long time, but they stayed focused on their ministry, providing water to the desperate people of Haiti. And then ABC's Extreme Home Makeover showed up. This story comes to us from freelance producer Cindy Corbett and videographer Jay Brewer.
One of television's most popular shows put a missionary pilot in the spotlight this month. The ABC television program Extreme Home Makeover chose the Joe Hurston family after severe water damage to their original home forced them to live in a trailer. But their personal problems were quickly overshadowed by the January 2010 Haiti earthquake. The Hurstons made the choice to forgo their own needs to help the people of Haiti. Fixing their own house would have to wait.
This is the most devastating disaster we've ever seen, and we could do something about it. We speak the language, we know the route, so we focused everything we had to try to help the people in Haiti.
And, what carried us through was really keeping our mind on and our heart set on, hearing Jesus say, I was thirsty and you gave me to drink.
Bringing life-giving water to disaster victims in Haiti and around the world has been their mission for the past 6 years. An ingenious device has enabled Joe to meet the needs of tens of thousands with just one small airplane.
Water is heavy. I fly little airplanes, so I can't carry very much water, couldn't do very much good. But then one day I encountered a remarkable inventor and a dear friend of mine who invented an incredible technology that we have since developed and built into a very powerful portable water purification system.
The unit can produce up to 25 gallons of pure water an hour. And so far, Hurston has placed over 700 of these water purification systems in 38 countries. That life-saving work is the reason Extreme Home Makeover, along with 3,000 volunteers, decided to build the Hurstons a brand new home. They tore down the old house and built them a new one, working around the clock for 6 straight days. The show also updated navigational instruments on the Air Mobile Ministry plane, convinced Bank of America to provide a $100,000 grant for the Hurstons' work, and found full college scholarships for the 3 Hurston children, 2 of whom were adopted from Haiti.
The outpouring of love and cooperation that we have had has been staggering.
It's more than just the material belongings we were given. It is just an incredible force of love, which is empowering us to get back out there in the mission field and share water and share the love of Christ with others.
The exposure for the Hurstons in their ministry is opening many new opportunities and reminds them of a Bible promise.
I'd like people to know that the Lord is watching them. He sees all the hard work.
That's right.
He wants to remind us to not grow weary in doing good because He's got a harvest for us in the right time.
Well, the Hurstons are not stopping long enough to enjoy their improved home. They're actually headed now to Japan to help the people there. And Lee, it just is proof that when we take care of others' needs, God will take care of our needs.
They've been busy being a blessing to so many others, and now they get to receive a blessing.
I mean, their kids are all taken care of in college. They got a $100,000 grant. I mean, you
God doesn't leave us alone, does
doesn't.
He? Yeah. Well, up next, learning from the crisis. What we can learn about faith in the eye of the storm.
Finding video on CBN.com just got easier. We've taken all our video, the 700 Club, news, testimonies, teachings, plus our 24/7 channels, and put them in one convenient location, CBN TV. Watch what you want, when you want. It's all simple to find, and now easier than ever to email a story to a friend. CBN TV on CBN.com.
The doctor said to me, Peggy, you don't understand. Pancreatic cancer is inoperable and incurable. And he says, well, Peggy, you've got 2 months to live. It was like he was telling me, go to the store. There was no compassion. And that was heartbreaking. My life was an hourglass. I was home, laying on the couch, just dying. My sister Pam called the Cancer Treatment Centers of America. When I got there, I knew that I was going to be cared for. I met with the doctor after the tests were done and said, how long do I have? And he looked at me and he said, Peggy, we did a lot of tests on you, and I never saw one thing stamped on the bottom of your foot that said you were going to die in 2 months. You have no expiration date. I thought, wow.
Cancer Treatment Centers of America is unlike any other cancer hospital, full of hope, committed to your fight. We use every weapon: surgery, chemotherapy, radiation, nutrition, spiritual support, and mind-body medicine. We surround you with a real team, working together, all under one roof.
Each time I went back to the Cancer Treatment Centers of America, I responded better. My tumors were shrinking. Came back in September again, and they still couldn't see anything. I said, you're kidding me. We'll see how it goes. We'll keep testing, but we can't see the tumors anymore.
Please call the number on your screen to speak with an oncology information specialist and receive a life-changing information kit and DVD packed with valuable information. Call now and learn about treatment options you may not even know exist.
It's really unbelievable how one doctor can tell me I have 2 months to live. And then I go to the Cancer Treatment Centers of America and they saved my life. Hope is a mainstay. Hope is everything.
Don't give up. Your fight is our fight. Call Cancer Treatment Centers of America today.
Not all that long ago, natural disasters like the one in Japan were called acts of God. You don't hear that expression much anymore. Sadly, many Christians are uncomfortable saying that a loving God would allow such terrible destruction and pain. We don't object to describing God as sovereign, but are we willing to embrace all that word implies? The fact is that Scripture is filled with examples of God's sovereign power over nature. The Psalms declare that the ocean depths, lightning and hail, snow and clouds, stormy winds do His bidding. We should never pretend to know why God does such things, but we can be assured of how He wants us to respond. The Bible tells us to mourn with those who mourn and to supply all the comfort and relief that Jesus provided to the hungry, sick, and afflicted when He walked this earth. That's what motivates CBN's Operation Blessing to do what it does in times of disaster, to be the closest thing to Jesus that some folks may ever see. Yes, God is sovereign. That means He's not wringing His hands over what's happening in Japan or any place else on earth. He didn't speak the world into existence only to let it spin out of control. God superintends every atom on this planet and beyond, and He knows every hair on our heads. But the same God who is awesome in power is also amazing in His grace. He's a God who likes to take things that are broken and make them better again. That's why we can call Almighty God our friend and Redeemer. Thanks for joining us. Good night.
God bless you.